Hello guys, welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be talking about Miscreated. There's a lot of pros and a lot of cons in this game, okay? One of the things that I kind of want to take from this is like, what type of game do you really enjoy? If you're looking for pure survival, literally have like nothing when you start out, you have to find everything to be able to get where you want to be, this is the game for you. If you wanted to get into a game where you are basically given all the weapons and everything you need and you just go out and kill zombies, this is not that kind of game. This is a very hardcore survival type of game. Now, let's kind of go over the pros and cons of this game. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding the bell for future videos. We will try to do some of these between leagues of, of other games that we play. We'll try to throw these in here every once in a while. But let's go ahead and get started with the pros. So this game has rather nice graphics on it, actually. I'm relatively surprised by the graphic quality. When you shoot the water, it actually has a ripple effect of where you actually hit. There are lots of games out there that don't have that aspect, and I think that's really key and is really, really cool to add in. There are so many items hidden throughout the entire map. Okay, it is just one map unless you get the expansions, but primarily it is one map and it's always the same. Now, what spawns in those locations is what changes. There is so much loot to grab from every location. It's ridiculous how much loot there is, but with all of that loot, what are you gonna do with it? You don't have that much space, especially when starting out, or if you're playing on a standard server, your bag space is rather limited, so you're gonna need to make a base. Bases are a little clunky. They tend to, not work the way you want them to, or the snap points are not always like, lined up exactly to the corners. There's like usually a little gap, unless you're, pretty good at placing your structures. You get out of your car, if you put it into the garage, you're gonna jump up to the second floor. But I think what really turns this game around are the mods that are put into the game. Now, just like any other type of survival game, there are, other servers that are hosted by other people, and you can put in other mods to make the server more inclined towards newer players or increase the amount of stuff that you get from killing zombies, things like that. Survival in this game is rather difficult, actually. There are lots of ways to die. You fall 5 feet, you die. You can get bleeding damage from getting hit by any of the type of zombies. There's radiation poisoning from, drinking radiated water, radiated food. There's also poisoning if you decide to drink some of the water from the dirty sinks or the toilets inside the houses because you're thirsty. I mean, all these things are going to hurt you. And you also have the weather effects in the game, from radiation storms or acid rainstorms, tornadoes. It's in here. This game is also really good with party play. If you can play with like 1 or 2 friends, it's actually very nice and very helpful and is actually going to be more enjoyable. This game is not a game that's like, let's say, Rust. Okay, so Rust is you need to play for quite some time unless you're on a heavily modded server to be able to get your base up, to be able to go find weapons, to be able to craft weapons and everything like that. This game, you can actually kind of play this game for like, 20-30 minutes to an hour, or, whatever you want to put into it, and then get off and you're good to go. There are a ton of things to craft, so you can craft basically anything you want, and that way you can basically create ammo or base modifications or even a chair for your front room. There are lots and lots of cons to this game. There are not many players on this game. There's only a couple hundred players that play the game consistently. There is also a lack of servers. There are quite a few of massive bugs, one of them we already mentioned, like the falling 5 feet. You fall 5 feet and you die. I don't know anyone who can jump 5 feet and is going to die from it. You might, hurt your legs a little bit. Generally speaking, 5 feet, probably not gonna die. Now, drinking clean water can still give you radiation. You also have, bugs where you can't open doors, you can't, get into a vehicle, you can't open boxes, you have to close out of the game. Most of the time when you try to go back to the login screen, it kicks you completely out of the game, so you have to reload into the game and then reload into the server, re-download the mods because it doesn't save the mods on your computer. It just downloads it, use it, and then when it's done it erases it. I touched a little bit about the building and how like you can basically build whatever you want, yes, but it is very clunky. Trying to get something to line up, like I mentioned, is rather difficult. Trying to be able to stack things on each other becomes very difficult, and then trying to find the recipes to be able to build them is even more difficult. Another issue that I found is the lag while traveling. Now, if you're traveling in a car and you go around, say, a corner and it needs to, you know, generate that next area for you, you're gonna have some either stuttering or the game's just gonna freeze for a couple seconds while it loads in that next area. If you hit like 1 or 2 trees, your car is gonna blow up. I get how realistic that is, but in a game where, you know, you're not literally driving the car, it seems like it's not very conducive to the game. And another thing with cars, you can hear them from a mile away. So if you're not on a PvE server, like you're on a PvP server, if you're driving a car, you're toast, right? Everyone's gonna know exactly where you are and is gonna be able to kill you instantly. There's no hiding well in a car, okay? It's so loud, it attracts zombies from very far away, and especially when you're playing on a PvP server, those guys are just gonna come right after you in the car and just blow you up instantly. This is not exactly the best PvP type of game. I would rather go to Rust and play Rust. It's rather clunky, it's glitchy, the aiming is not very good. That could just be me because I'm a horrible aim anyways on first-person shooters, but with that being said, it still feels rather off. They kind of like jitter around a lot instead of like very, you know, smooth movements. It's very jaggedy and it's just very frustrating. I don't think that you can sink hundreds and thousands of hours into this game and still be interesting. I mean, this game, I've sunk like about 60-70 hours into this game and I'm still having some fun and I'm still learning new things. But I couldn't see myself playing thousands of hours in this game like I can with Path of Exile or Rust. Those games, you can easily sink thousands of hours into them and you can enjoy it that way. And as you can tell by how many players are actually currently playing the game, I think a lot of people are in agreement with me on this. I kind of touched on crafting in the pros and how there's lots of things you can craft. That is also a con, okay? There are too many things to craft and it becomes very tedious. And it becomes more of a Googling session on how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do this Miscreated? You know, you start putting Miscreated after everything that you start doing, and it becomes more of a Google session than a gaming session. There's a little tutorial. I mean, it's kind of like the Rust tutorial. No one ever uses it because it's basically useless. Now, I kind of touched on the realism, how you can bleed, radiate, and get poisoned. Here's the other part. Here's the cons. Okay, there are no names over the people's heads. There's no way to distinguish who anyone is. So if you're playing on like a PvP server, basically, if you are not right next to your teammate or you know exactly what color they are wearing, you're gonna shoot your own teammate and kill them. There's no map location. It's literally a map that you pull out in front of you and look at it just like a standard map, and there's no way to tell where you are except for looking around the land and trying to get a lay of the land and looking at it that way. So if you have no idea how a map works, you're screwed. Along with that, because you don't know where you are per se, especially if you're starting out, if you die, your stuff stays where you die. If you don't know where you are or where you died, it's gone and you're never going to be able to find it. This is kind of a problem, right? If you don't know where your body is and you die, you're done. Here's my suggestions for new players. Find a PvE server that has good modifications on there. There's Newcastle that I would highly recommend, and the reason for that is because it has a lot of ammunition on the zombies already, and so you can easily be able to play the game without having too much trial trying to get started. Now, PvE servers are really nice because the people on them are generally speaking rather nice and are more willing to help you out than a PvP server where basically everyone's out to kill you. PvE servers are really nice because you can learn all the aspects of the game, especially how to aim, how to orient yourself on the map, where you are on the map, and also how to craft everything that you need to to be able to get started. Modded servers are your friends. I also recommend, like I said before, to play with a friend or two, as this game can get rather boring rather quick, especially if you don't have other players to help you. Would I recommend this game? Yes. Would I recommend it for Steam price of $29.99? I would not. I think this game is better situated for about a $15 game point, which is actually right in par with the G2A price of $16. I think $15 is worth it. I usually say if I can get $1 for every like 2 to 3 hours of gameplay to 4 to 5 hours of gameplay, that's usually worth the price. $30 is rather steep for this game, especially for the player base and the lack of servers because of lack of players. That is my ideas, the pros and cons and suggestions for this game. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding the bell for future videos, as we will try to keep posting videos every couple of days. And until next time, guys, thank you for joining me. Peace out.